So happy
All right,
holidays.
folks. Happy holidays. Welcome to the most spectacular webinar you're going to hear all year. Well, the last one at least. So guys and girls, we thought we would get everyone together and talk about why RFID isn't really done, but it really does need to have a little help along the way. And so we're going to explore how multiple sensors can actually add a lot more intelligence into our solutions and result in better solutions for the end customer.
Right.
So without further ado, for those that don't know, I'm Neil and Joe's sitting beside me. We'll avoid the usual jokes about Neil.
There's a lot of obvious jokes, huh?
And some of you have probably seen a slide similar to this before, but one of the challenges that we have...
We switched it to houses this time.
We switched to houses from cars. Is data capture is actually significantly ignored in not just our industry, but generally. There's a lot of focus into the data analysis, into artificial intelligence, into processing data. But of course, if that data capture is not very good, not very high quality, in itself it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. So you're really making your analysis hard work.
So, but before we go, Neil slipped this slide in, and my son and I go on motorcycle trips, and we don't have real fancy taste. So there's not a diner in California that we don't adore. So Neil's coming with us, and I decide that the first night Neil needs to. He likes the finer things in life. He does. And so, I'm on Airbnb and I look for a place that's by the river, nice cottage, blah, 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 blah. And that place with the outdoor shower, you get to that place by taking a right at the outhouse.
Yeah.
That was our first cabin, and Neil was not impressed.
It was bigger than the outhouse, but only just. And it seats 7 apparently, or sleeps 7 apparently, but anyway. So that's the state.
If you like each other a whole lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we're going to do. This is the second place we stayed. Now, show them the second place we stayed on the motorcycle trip.
Yeah, the garage. So we're trying to make data capture a lot more sexy, a lot more appealing. And all joking aside, I mean, this is an area that is really fundamentally ignored by not just our industry, but multiple industries. And by combining a few sensors here, we can end up with a lot more smart and intelligence about solving real customer problems. So, for example, the old way of doing things, taking a look at the economics, is a lot of our competition. They'll take a look at focusing on the cost of the product, but they don't take into account a lot of the other considerations, such as installation cost, getting power and data to and from the solution, but also the sensors. And the sensors is where we're going to focus today. Most of our competitors one sensor wonders, right? Basically, they're going to try and solve a solution with RFID and RFID alone.
We don't mean to be too critical. RFID is a challenging technology, but it is a technology with some very real physical limitations.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about. Hey, Joe.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. A lot of us came from the chip business or the telecommunications business, and so we don't. To us, RFID is a tool in a potentially much bigger tool set, and most of the things we experience in life, a glass of wine, if you don't have smell and sight, it's vastly different experience than if you can see it and you smell it. A sporting event without sound is dramatically different. It's just not the same thing. How do you perceive heat? Well, is it temperature or humidity, or is it the fact that you're in the shade or the sun, or is there a breeze? None of these things are a one-dimensional measurement. And RFID, in its simplest form, it simply sends power out to something, and the thing says, this is who I am. And that's a very one-dimensional capability. And so we'll point at some places, and they're very painful for the industry, where the industry has fallen on its face. And the Amazon store opportunity is a good example. in the end, it became a vision system versus RFID system, and RFID lost to vision. We would have seen that much more naturally as both. Vision systems do a lot of things that RFID can't do, and vice versa. And the sad point about that is that as an industry, we didn't respond that way, and RFID lost out on that opportunity. And a lot of what you'll see us do through this presentation and the jokes we make is try and sort of poke people a little bit and say, hey, there's different ways to do this that give you a lot more information about what's going on than just try and brute force it.
Yeah. And quite frankly, also the other way around, if someone tries to solve a problem with only vision, that could also fall flat on its face. And RFID is very important in being part of that solution.
And very complementary a lot of times.
Yeah. So what about the readers?
Yeah, we're being a little cheeky here, and we don't, a lot of hardware people attend these webinars, and we're not poking fun at you, but we are a little bit trying to point out that we think that the industry would do better if we broadened out a bit. And a barcode reader, an RFID reader in its simplest form, it's just a barcode reader that reads a bit further away and it reads faster. And really good ones can read a bit further and faster. And, if you're working on a next generation one, there's a good chance that you're going to read a little yonder further and you're going to read a smidge faster. And to us, that maybe isn't the right approach. And you'll hear us talking about sensors today. In January, we're going to have a freaking cool announcement. And you'll see, again, coming from us, a different perspective on what do you bring to the market to make this set of tools more attractive to deal with general sensing problems.
Yeah, it's just going to be quite different. By the way, is yonder, by the way, a technical term?
It is, from Southern Illinois. So is smidge, actually.
So smidge? I thought that was English, but okay.
Maybe it is, I don't know.
So, RFID does not necessarily solve...
By the way, there's going to be a tribute to Britain on this page. Okay, here we go.
Yes, there is. So RFID, can it solve all? Well, not really. And the problem is it's RF. And if you take a look at basic technologies here, digital technology is obviously predictable. It's ones and zeros, right? It's very exact. You can simulate this stuff. It's easy from that perspective. Well, I don't tell that to Intel's designing huge chips, but
yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
But then you take a step towards analog, and things start to get a little bit more fuzzy, and the results are more susceptible to component quality and things of that kind.
And there's an art to it.
And there's an art.
There's a reason that the good RF designers sometimes are older fellas,
and
older men and women.
Yeah, but we live in the world of RF. And for those of you that have been around long enough, RF, you'll remember this. This is the sound of shortwave radio. And can you guess what century this is? This was actually the year 2000. So, yeah, it could have been the 1900s, right? That's RF for you, boys and girls. So that's the world we live in.
It should be pointed out that RF does some really cool things, but some of the physical limitations you can't sort of design around, like in a lot of technical worlds, if you look at monitors or you look at computers or memory or telecommunications in 2000, which is that, we were at 2.5 gig in a transceiver, 2.5 gigabits of data per second going down out of a transceiver, in and out of a transceiver. Now they're at 400 gigabits per second, and RF just can't do that, and so its ability to change isn't as elastic as some of these other technologies.
So with RF, I mean, the challenge that we're all faced with is, in a lot of these applications, we have a lot of corner cases, and that's where RFID usually runs into some headwinds. Whether it's cross reads, stray reads, not reading enough, insufficient reads, not reading fast enough, so on and so forth. And the equipment can be expensive. And if you just try to solve the problem with more RFID, you can end up trying to patch the problem, or in fact making things worse, or moving the problem from one situation to another.
And to customers, that often feels just like complexity, and customers really don't want to hear that this is complex or magical or anything like that. They just want to understand how to fix their problem.
Yeah.
We
So much we're playing again.
Yeah.
There we go. So let's take a look at, we're talking about sensors. So what we thought we'd do is take a quick look at how you attach sensors to readers. And we're looking at the Sensor Array Enterprise reader here. And the point we want to home in on a little bit here is that because of the type of I/O we have on this reader, we effectively have two classes of I/O. We actually have a very high bandwidth set of input-output, and that's the Ethernet ports, so the power over Ethernet ports, of which we have 4. And then we have a low bandwidth or control interface, which is the powered GPIO. So going back to the high bandwidth, so we can connect, apart from, of course, other readers, so we can connect our readers into a daisy chain or into a network.
Or other computers.
We can actually connect a vision system. We can connect a camera, and we turn our RFID solution into a vision system very simply with the addition of a $100 camera.
Or you can add a FLIR, or you can add a 3-dimensional radar, or.
Yeah.
The other point, when Neil shows that this goes to the next reader, that next reader can be an Extreme, and inside an Extreme there's a quad-core processor. There's 32 gigabytes of data available, and that allows you to process the data from these sensors. So if you're really looking at a network of sensors and you're looking at a lot of streams of sensor data, you can simply grab one of our Extremes in that situation, and it can be real-time local processing for a whole bunch of vision indicators or radar indicators or what have you.
And then, of course, you can also attach control-type devices, devices that just need control, low bandwidth. And in the example here, we're actually showing connecting up to a PIR sensor, passive infrared sensor. This is the type of sensor you might see in a commercial building that turns the lights on for you when you walk in. It just detects this heat in the room and turns on or off. And it's pretty much as simple as this to connect up to our readers. There might be a couple of resistors here in certain cases, but the point here being is that that PIR sensor is actually being powered by our reader, and that power is coming in through the PoE port, which may actually be connected to another reader before it.
Right.
So that's the Enterprise. Let's take a look at the Sensor X Extreme reader. This is a case where it's good to ask yourself about, well, what sensors do I actually have available already inside of the device, and what kind of information can that tell me about the environment I'm reading in? So yeah, of course, this is an RFID, UHF passive RAIN RFID. It has Bluetooth low energy in, so that can be used for reading active beacons or even battery assisted passive type products. But we also have a bunch of sensors in here from you'd normally expect to see in a cell phone. So movement sensors, gyro, GPS for location, accelerometer, pressure gauge.
Right.
So you can start to really piece together a very good, if you excuse the pun, vision of what's going on in your environment. And then you can communicate it not only through Ethernet, but through Bluetooth and through Ethernet, which are all internal. Or you can connect externally to a cellular modem if you wanted to.
Yeah, the USB.
Through USB. And of course we have GPIO on this device as well.
So why is the question mark on the PIR?
Well, do you even need it now?
Oh, I see. Yeah, the Extreme's quite clever, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
You trying to catch me out there?
I just noticed that.
So let's take a look at some examples, how sensors can be used with different applications to really simplify the solution.
And to tell customers a lot more about what's going on.
Yeah. So let's take a look at one that's probably a lot of us know about already, warehouse dock doors. If we take a look at the conventional approach, yep, we've got the RAIN RFID reader there with its antenna, and we're off reading items. And many of us already take into account that you're probably going to have laser brake sensors already involved in this solution. So you're already starting to take a step towards adding multiple sensors, even in a very basic warehouse environment. And these laser brake sensors will be used for turning the reader on or off. But even then, you may have an external GPIO box to control it, and that
got the power supply for that.
Yeah, and that may need to be in a NEMA enclosure, and that all starts to add cost
And complexity. One of the problems with this is that when this reader in a dock door, you turn it on and leave it on for X number of seconds, and it just says, "Here's what I've read," and that's the extent of the information. And sometimes it becomes very difficult to figure out, is that on the pallet, is that in the read zone, as opposed to, is it in a box, it just happens to be read. And that's where you start to see multi-sensor approaches really just ruling the day. And so we've already been working applications like this for a while, where you take RFID and you pair it up with the vision system, and the vision system counts boxes, it identifies box size, it identifies boxes moving in and out of the zones, and it just provides a lot more information and texture to what is in what position, where it's moving to. And of course, as soon as you filter in the RFID data, then the whole question of what items are in what position becomes really trivial, and cross reads are eliminated sort of in a software analytic domain, as opposed to trying to do something that's harsh. And it's very easy to set these things up. The vision systems, they do take a little bit of learning, but it's kind of learning on the job, if you will. So you got your reader, you got the antennas, and you got a camera or two, and bang, you're done.
Yep. All for a massive $100 extra cost.
Yeah.
So let's take that warehouse application. Let's say, well, that's all well and good, but we also want to...
Just as one last thing, we're supposed to pimp our products a little bit, right?
Oh, okay.
So again, Neil said you have a powered GPIO system. You don't need additional GPIO control boxes or GPIO power supplies. Those are all sort of included in an enterprise. You just hook it up, and if you do need to run GPIO things, they're easy to run. Like a light stack can be operated from the enterprise with no power supplies required.
Yep. So let's take this warehouse dock door now, and let's say it's all well and good, but we also want to monitor the quality of the produce coming in. So whether it's vegetables or fruit or something of that type, or meats. So now we can take that existing system we just spoke about, and we can add in a Bluetooth low energy beacon that might be measuring temperature, humidity, maybe even the outgassing of ethylene and other gases, and that can be transmitting simultaneously, as well as the RFID and the video system. And then we start again. We've got more information about the condition of the goods coming in. Right,
and just so that everybody understands, in these situations, the RFID tags are typically box level, so they're on a box or they're on an RPC, which is this plastic container. The BLE beacons are a little bit more expensive. They tend to be in volume $5 to $20, and they'll be like on a pallet, or they'll be mounted strategically inside of a truck, but there's not as many of them. But you can combine that data so that at a box level, a lot about the environment that has gone through during its movement around the distribution chain.
Yeah. So another application, a fairly different one, is changing rooms in the retail application. And this one is kind of interesting because it really does show up the weak points of RFID, because you're trying to read these adjacent cubes. They're right next to each other. And so what does everyone do? Oh, let's turn down the power.
Or we'll point the antennas in just right. If you point them just right, doesn't it work?
Occasionally, until someone moves something. Or let's spray paint the room with, or put foil up.
And all of those things. First of all, if you make your changing room into a Faraday cage, so you're trying your T-shirt on basically in a Faraday cage. Yeah, that works, But nobody will ever do that. It takes too long. It's too expensive. And the other problem of all of this, all these antennas and fine tuning and this and that and the other thing is, to a user of this, that just looks really complicated to the point of being silly. And here, we talked about the PIRs before. Here, an enterprise can drive 4 PIRs and have antennas in 4 rooms. And the PIR basically tells you what rooms are occupied. And it's really simple software logic on top of that. If you know the tags and you're watching tag motion and you know what rooms are occupied and people coming in and out, you can very, very easily figure out what inventory is moving into what room and what inventory is leaving. And it's very straightforward. The PIRs are the almond colored. Our product is almond colored. It's very not visible to people. So it's a really sweet solution to a problem that, just can't be handled very well by RFID alone at all.
Right, and it's very inexpensive. I mean, it's sort of throwing expensive hardware, more readers, or fine-tuning antennas. $10, and you solved your problem. So let's switch hats here to something on a completely different scale. So storage yards.
These are big.
These are big.
50 acres.
50 acres, yeah, huge. And surprisingly, a lot of them are still using barcodes. And so people are either walking around or they're driving with vehicles and then they're dropped off and they'll go and examine an area. And we're told that quite often to do an inventory of a 40 or 50 acre yard is about $25,000. It is not cheap.
Yeah.
And quite often it doesn't really even solve their problems. Like, it's still difficult to find a part.
This is all big stuff. So these are huge pieces of concrete for bridges, road work, very, very large pipes. And they're also actually curing in the yard. And we've heard, these guys, they're very clear about telling what their problem is. They'll walk around for half a day to find something that somebody needs.
Yep. So using something like the Extreme Reader, which has the GPS internal to it, allows you to, whenever you do a read of a particular item out in the yard, you're effectively affixing the GPS location to that read every time you read a tag. So you now have an inventory map, literally a map of the whole yard, where everything is, so you know where something is, where to find it, where to go and get it.
That's correct.
In that yard. And
when you drive that little tractor, it's called a gator. When you drive your gator up to home base, wherever the office is, the Extreme, of course, is Wi-Fi enabled, so it gets on the Wi-Fi network and it can pop all the information back in a really easy way. If you want to run everything on the Extreme, again, it has all the computational power to do this, and it's got 32 gigs of storage, so you can store all the stuff locally. The last thing is that it is Bluetooth enabled, so if you have your phone and you type in a serial number, within the Extreme itself, it can run a management system and tell you the location of the thing, so you can drive and go pick the thing up to a tablet or a phone to make things easy for you.
Yep.
A lot of good stuff there.
Yep. Another opportunity is looking at goods inside of a trailer. So the trailer may actually get dropped off at a customer location without the engine, without the motor, and left there for a while. And so again, with an Extreme type product with all the different sensors there, you can use a GPIO for a door switch, so you know when the door's open, GPS, so you know where the tractor trailer is. Man, I'm speaking American now, by the way, tractor trailer. And then you can use the gyro and accelerometer for understanding the condition.
We've gotten under your bonnet. Huh?
There you go.
Let's just check that there boot.
Yep.
Boot's where you put your luggage, not something to put your foot. Is that right?
That's correct. That is correct.
I don't think so.
And the PIR can be used for detecting if someone's actually in the cargo area, and obviously that means one of two things. One is, they're in there to get things out, and it's legitimate, or if they're not there legitimately, and so you have a security aspect to it as well. And then communication, You can use a cellular backhaul if desired. And some of these we've quoted with battery backup, and some of them also including solar panels as well for long-term storage of goods in these tractor trailers for weeks upon weeks.
Yeah, one of the more exotic applications of this, MTI actually has been involved with oceanic shipping, where they put it in the what do you call that big box? They put it in the big
container.
box. Yeah, they put it in the container, and there's an antenna on the outside, and they're actually tracking it at sea. It's pretty crazy stuff. Anyway.
Yep. Another extension actually to the 40, 50 acre yard one we spoke about earlier is actually taking it one step further. And if you take a look at concrete curing, either in a big yard or actually in construction, there's another application where we can take a look at passive RFID sensors. And those of you that were on the previous webinar, we spoke a little bit about this. So these are passive sensors and not battery powered. They can be embedded into either the concrete foundation or concrete structures that are curing in a large yard. And then you can use the reader to identify exactly which block or structure this is, and you can map its curing by monitoring the temperature and humidity over time.
Yeah, and we can punch into about 5 inches of concrete as it's curing. Now, when it's totally wet, I don't think we fully penetrate 5 inches, but as it dries out and we start to penetrate, we can track that moisture curve for you.
Yeah, and this is all about optimizing the construction. So the construction guys don't wait for 5 days and then start building the next bit. They can actually get to work in 3 days when it's actually cured. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but you can look at this. We'll share the presentation afterwards, but this is kind of a little summary of all the problems that we see on the left-hand side there, and some of the solutions that we've proposed with the different sensors. So homework.
You're giving them homework? That's kind of presumptuous, I think.
That's right. We'll send a test.
They give us homework.
We'll send you a test later. No. So the other thing we also wanted to talk about is something completely different. As you guys know, quite often if you've attended our webinars before, we kind of finish off with something a little bit different. So we are about to announce, once I complete the press release.
Yeah, Neil's writing that.
We got
to get it approved by Rod. So we're bringing a handheld on board.
Yes.
And first of all, we do really enjoy collaborating with other folks. We're driving to provide really slick, sort of one-stop, get you everything solutions to people. And we were missing a handheld, and a big customer of ours said, "Thou shalt look at that, and if you can get along with those guys, you should use that." So we said, "Yes, sir." Rod's a good guy. This will be onboarded just like we do with all of our readers, so that the APIs and SDKs are easy for you all to work with. It'll pick up similar fields so that if you're using one device and you move to another one, it won't be confusing at all. The nice thing about this is that these guys are well aligned with our push into sensor tags. So the sensor tags that we're working on, they are too. And we'll continue down that path so that as passive sensors move from temperature into moisture, from moisture into gas detection, and from there into really exciting places, all of these devices will be providing that for you.
Yep. And just kind of visually to see where it fits into the portfolio of products. Again, I'm not going to go through this in detail in the presentation today, but left for the interested reader later. But you can see there the Extreme at the top and the different Sensor family members that we have, the One, the Pro, and the Enterprise, and the differences there, the handheld. And of course, don't forget the antenna on the right-hand side there, including the Sense RF101, $64 list price.
You're getting better.
Radome, polycarbonate, radome, etc.
Yeah, all
Very
of our stuff
robust.
is just for the guys that want to know. All of our stuff is polycarbonate, and we feature 2 millimeter back aluminum plates. So this stuff is getting it. Even the stuff that is not declared rugged is pretty darn tough. Also, the CSL 108 fits really nicely into that. They've done a really good job in designing something that can be dropped without anything bad happening.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Happy holidays, everyone. So
That's
the
right.
hat is going to come out shortly after we conclude here. And hang around, guys, because we'll do a Q&A after this.
That's right.
But
Yeah. So a holiday basket's going to go out, and being that it's coming from Senseless, it'll have items that appeal to your vision and your smell and your taste. True multi-sensor gift basket. The big prize.
Good job.
Yeah. Tie everything together with branding. The grand prize, of course, is our coffee cup, because it's the holidays. We're going to stuff it with candy and send it on out to you. That's it. Really have a safe and joyous holiday time with your loved ones. And these are some pictures from the motorcycle trip. In the top right, that's Neil with my son. We're at Crater Lake. The one in the middle on the down is Mount Shasta, which is a really, really pretty place. Anyway, let's go ahead and open this up for questions.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A box, and we'll be happy to address them.
Yeah, it takes a little while for people to get going with that.
No questions so far. We've blinded people with science. Okay, any questions, guys?
If we
Guys
blinded
and girls?
people with science, we've failed. We failed. So the motorcycles we got there, we got 2 Beamers and we've got a Suzuki, right?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty strong. All right, doesn't look like we've got any questions,
All
people.
right.
So, well, thanks very much, everyone. Have a super holiday season, and we'll be doing picking up the webinars early in the new year. And as we alluded to, there is something rather special coming in the January timeframe.
Yeah. January it's a brave new world.
And it's not hardware.
Well, that's not completely true.
It's partially.
It's partially true. Okay.
Okay.
Bye all. You guys have a safe holiday, and we'll see you on the flip side. Bye now.
Bye-bye.